Hi, how's everyone doing? I have whiskey, so yay. So, normally when I do a video, I would find an article, read it aloud, often yell things because, let's face it, articles nowadays are kind of wacky with zero connection to objective reality. I'd pepper in the jokes, record it, edit it, and so on. But last night, I came across an article that was so tone-deaf and arrogant, I thought, hell, I'll just read the whole thing because, my lord, this is a really bad case of contradicting lunacy to the point where I'm thinking the author is either having short-term memory problems or he's schizophrenic. Actually, given that he mentions he's lived through the Nixon administration, and that was in '69, he claims to have remembered it, so this guy is at least 65 years of age, I would say. Though I don't know many who took an active interest in the Nixon administration at 13 years of age, admittedly, but anyway. So this headline, focusing on Trump may be a bad strategy for Democrats, but he's the real issue. Not very often you read a headline and it's exactly what you think is in the article, but hey, blue moons do happen once in a while. And if you're sitting there thinking, wait a minute, is this guy admitting that focusing on Trump is a bad strategy, but the Democrats should do it anyway, regardless of the irreparable damage it will do to the Democrats? Yes, that is exactly what he is saying, and he is going to contradict himself over and over again, as we will see, so let's crack on. The conventional wisdom after the tight gubernatorial races in Virginia and New Jersey, and as the congressional midterm contests get underway in earnest, is that Democratic candidates who focus their upcoming campaigns on attacking Donald Trump are unlikely to be elected. Okay, so far so good. It's also about the only sane paragraph or two in this whole unhinged excuse for a piece of journalism, mind you. Instead, they have to talk about the issues that actually matter to voters. Okay, here's one problem with that. The Democratic Party literally does not give a fuck about what the voters want. At all. You could see this in the corporate press blowback when Youngkin won. There was zero introspection. It was instantly insult the voters. The current regime, like all authoritarian regimes, has only two goals: stay in power and increase power. They want to be an authoritarian regime, they despise the Constitution, the rule of law, and they hate the voters. They literally think anyone else holding the reins of power is going to bring about fascism. It's more the lackeys in the press who peddle this crap who believe that. But trust me, those in power would love to be fascistic, and yes, I'm aware they have no idea what that word means. High petrol prices, say, and climbing inflation. Yeah, but the Democrats cause that, so they aren't going to solve it. That is deliberate sabotage. Or old standbys like decent schools and usable roads. Considering they insulted the parents, I don't think the schooling argument is going to win you votes anytime soon. Democratic districts are notorious for incredibly poor performing public schools. Or the persistence of COVID-19. Okay, the COVID one is interesting because here's how you get rid of COVID. You ready for this? Fuck off government. COVID is not a medical problem. COVID is a political problem. I know for the govern me harder daddy Democrat types, this is not an option because it requires relinquishing government control and it goes against the wishes of an authoritarian regime. If you were sane, you would look at somewhere like Florida and go, what does Florida do that no one else does? Well, for one, they don't listen to Fauci, which seems to have worked out rather well. They don't have any mandates or any of the other three things all the blue states try and do in perpetuity in vain that's causing their case numbers to spiral out of control. And Florida has the least amount of cases and deaths, and they have a higher than average age population compared to the rest of the US. So, safe to say Florida when every other blue state sucks ass. Waving one's arms and screaming about January 6th and a zombie-like return of the fearsome orange-haired ogre simply will not be sufficient. Yes, would someone mind telling the author of this article that? Because this is what Biden did while stumping for McAuliffe and lost because of it. Because you look really fucking stupid when talking about someone who's a better president than you in literally every single way. That is a strategy only a colossal fuckwit would think is effective. Good lord. Yelling Trump, Trump, Trump when Mr. Trump is not on the ballot or in office is no longer a viable campaign strategy. Who knew? Wrote veteran Democratic pollster Mark Penn and former Democratic politician Andrew Stein in an op-ed last week in the New York Times. Like I said, at least some Democrats have some sense. It still doesn't tell them what they should actually do, though, policy-wise, just what they need to say to pander to voters, which would tell you they don't actually have any solutions. Terry McAuliffe and the Democrats tried to run against Trump in Virginia, but their strategy backfired, tweeted an exultant Republican National Committee chair, Ronna McDaniel. Now that I'm reading this, I should actually stop this video right here because watching the Democrats faceplant into the floor over and over again is probably the best thing for the country and the Republicans. This discussion of campaign tactics matters a lot. The Senate is currently controlled just barely by Democrats thanks only to the tie-breaking vote of Vice President Kamala Harris. If even one seat were to flip to the Republicans in November, it would shift the balance. I think you mean when they flip to the Republicans, because you people have absolutely no shot in hell of keeping the House and Senate at this rate. Even now, there's a 10-point swing in favor of the Republicans according to polls, and that's the highest it's ever been since that type of polling has been conducted. And we're a whole year away, versus a party that has done absolutely nothing but fall flat since day one, with not a single damn thing on the horizon to indicate they're improving. In the House, there are 8 more Democrats than Republicans, but since World War II, the president's party has lost more than 24 seats on average during midterm elections, and it will be more in 2022, that I can damn near guarantee you. Biden is worse than Carter already. Again, a whole year away. Control of Congress is absolutely necessary if President Biden is to achieve even a fraction of his agenda. Losing even one house would likely lead to complete legislative paralysis, which would be the best thing for the country because Biden is not the one calling the shots. He is just a vessel for destruction by a shadowy cabal. I know there's people in the media that says, oh, Biden is really in charge. No one with sanity believes that, even if Biden is unbelievably stupid. So winning these coming campaigns is tremendously important for Democrats, and I'm in no position to second-guess the strategists. If they say don't make Trump the focus, they may well be right. Okay, but this guy's entire article is literally saying, yeah, I don't care about that, keep mentioning Trump. But forgive me if I take a moment to raise a scream of agony to the heavens. What in the world is wrong with the voters? The arrogance of this arsehole is overwhelming. There's nothing wrong with the voters, you conceited, tone-deaf prick. You seem to not live on planet Earth, sir, or understand quite how politics work. A politician's job, aside from bathe in a mountain of cocaine and whores at the taxpayer's expense, though that could just be Hunter Biden, is to represent the constituents that voted for them. If they don't, the constituents vote for someone who does. But please do keep insulting the voters. I do hear that is a great campaign strategy. Why isn't Trump the issue? I can't think of a more tone-deaf question you can ask the electorate than that one. I'm starting to see why you're not a strategist. Methinks you would suck at it. Hey, I have a great idea. Let's completely ignore the voters' issues and focus on a guy who holds no political power whatsoever, and constantly remind them that he's the only thing we care about, and not a single one of their current problems existed under the guy we can't shut the fuck up about. Do you read your own writing, you fucking idiot? You literally mentioned why at the start of this very article. Petrol prices, inflation. Do you see why I said he's got short-term memory problems? This is the writing of an amateur. I can write better articles than this. Isn't the anti-Trump argument really the only argument that matters? At this particular moment in American history, doesn't almost every other issue pale in comparison? Do you realize how fucking insane you sound that you would dismiss every other issue the US is facing? Again, none of which existed under the previous administration, but you want the Democrats to focus on a man who holds no political power in the apparatus whatsoever. Republican and Democratic voters alike ought to recognize the dangers that face the country if this dishonest, anti-democratic, twice-impeached demagogue returns to power. They should demand that the midterm candidates for House and Senate declare whether they're with the former president or, if they should be, against him. Why? Please try, and you are going to hand the Republicans the entire government apparatus on a silver platter, pal. Republican often holders who have sold their souls by cravenly capitulating to Trump and his falsehoods about the 2020 election should be voted out of Congress. Representative Kevin McCarthy, R. Bakersfield, and his ilk have shown themselves to be dangerous and unprincipled. And they should pay for their irresponsibility. You wasted $32 million of taxpayers' money chasing what we now know for sure was completely false evidence, while Clinton went around to anyone suicidal enough to listen to her whining that she was robbed of the White House in 2016. But in 2020, when Trump won Ohio and Florida, the two states that have decided virtually every president in the last 120 years, you had over 100 million votes not cast on election day. The mail-in ballot count was over 700% of what it is when compared to any other year. The dismissal rates for those ballots of around 2 to 3% went to 0.2 to 0.3% despite 7 times the volume of ballots. And 6 key swing states, which Trump was leading, by the way, by over 1 million votes, received massive ballot dumps, all for one candidate in the middle of the night that took several days to count. But for some bizarre reason, the other 44 states could count all of their ballots in one day, no problem. And if you happen to point this out, you're some crazy conspiracy theorists. Okay. I know there's plenty of Republicans who think that people like me are still in the grip of some sort of Trump derangement syndrome. That's putting it fucking mildly. Your case is borderline needing psychological help, and I don't mean that facetiously. But in my view, which has no connection to reality, a second Trump term in office would be catastrophic for the United States, its reputation, its moral standing, its democratic process, and its peace and security, not to mention for the future of the climate and the planet. Yeah, I'm convinced this man is literally insane and in need of help. The US is worse off in every single way, with again a load of problems that the previous administration did not have at all. And Trump managed to reduce climate emissions. Even Biden admitted this at the climate summit, for heaven's sakes. The mere possibility of a Trump restoration in 2024 should have voters of all parties leaping from their couches as if stung and running for the polls to vote no. And why would they? Name me a single way in which the Biden administration is better for America than Trump. As a matter of fact, your stupid ass hasn't even named a single policy that makes Biden better than Trump. Why do you think Biden's approval is so low? Surely you're not dumb enough to think they're only polling Republicans, are you? So aside from your pathetic moral posturing that is completely disconnected from all objective reality, what else you got? Sure, issues matter. Not to you it doesn't. Your whole fucking article is literally bitching about the Democrats not focusing on Trump, and there's something wrong with the voters for not thinking Trump is the main issue. It would be highly presumptuous of me to suggest voters shouldn't be concerned about taxes and inflation and schools and all the other issues that make life easier or harder to live day to day. Right, you just think Trump not being in office for 3 more years is more important. Democratic incumbents, of course, must persuade voters that they're making progress fulfilling the promises they've made during the last campaign, which were what exactly? Biden's only argument was, I am not that guy. The Democrats voted, and I use that term very loosely, by the way, for a dementia-riddled oof who had no policies at all, and then proceeded to undo everything Trump did, and now you want to spend trillions of dollars fixing problems that they caused. But honestly, with the exception of climate change, which Trump actually improved, it's hard to think of any single issues that matter as much as the possibility of Trump's return. Ooh, scary orange man bad. And empowering his sycophants and enablers in the midterm empowers Trump himself 2 years later. We can only dream. So you're admitting Trump is actually going to win 2024 and the Republicans are going to smoke your ass in 2022. You can actually smell the fear. Or that might be the lunacy as well, I'm not sure, but fuck me. Does anyone else notice he hasn't actually said what Trump did that's so bad? It's just how he behaved. I mean, that's no different than literally every other complaint about Trump, but it's still amusing. When I think that 74 million people voted for Trump in November of 2020, I will bet you it is a hell of a lot more. Even after seeing how he behaved in his first 4-year term, I worry for the soul of the nation. Oh, shut the fuck up. You don't even have a soul. You destroyed it with acid and bathtub gin. Even more distressing is that so many continue to support him after he demonstrated his utter disdain for fair elections, insert Hillary Clinton here, democratic institutions, and the rule of law after he lost the race. By doing what exactly? How was he any worse than what Clinton did? Did Trump cost the taxpayer $32 million? Nope. Today, most Republicans say they believe Trump actually won the 2020 election, as he keeps claiming. Trust me, Biden's fucking incompetence and rapidly growing unpopularity makes more and more people suspect that's likely true. And 44% of Republicans want him to run again in 2024. I will bet you it is much, much higher than 44%. I've lived under other Republican presidents, Richard Nixon, Gerald Ford, Ronald Reagan, George H.W. Bush, and George W. Bush. I disagreed with them, often strongly, but I didn't dread them. I didn't believe they would put their own desire for power over the rule of law or the good of the country. How's Biden doing right about now? How's his desire for power, with him repeatedly fucking with the courts? Asshole. Well, maybe Nixon, but even he wasn't as reprehensible as Trump. Based on what exactly? I mean, he left the White House in a manner that Trump did not. And what did Trump do that was so bad? Name me a single policy that made America worse. Even one. As a matter of fact, I just realized I have read hundreds of articles over the past few months. I have not come across one, not even one, that names a single policy of Trump these people disagree with. They mention tax cuts, but talking to Dems about taxes is like trying to talk to a 2-year-old about quantum physics. It's just babble. Today, it's possible that voters have put Trump out of their minds, and to you who never shuts the fucking hell up about him, and are focused on petrol prices and the like. If so, by all means, Democratic candidates need to speak to those subjects in their campaign. Again, they never will because they caused those problems. If the price of defeating Trumpism is ignoring Trump, I can live with that. No, you can't. You're addicted to Trump. Get some help, dude. Fucking hell. But I'm under no illusions. Yes, you are. What are you, high? Actually, don't answer that. He's the real threat behind the scenes, and now he must not be allowed to return to office. That struggle begins now. At the current rate of progress, quote-unquote, you have no shot in hell of a Democrat even making it to 2024 with a presidential candidate. Anyone who's part of this administration is going to be destroyed in a debate for their complete ineptitude. And all of those issues that actually matter to people, your party has offered literally zero solutions to them. So, pal, get the fuck out. And that's all for today. Until next time.